Second time recording this video. Not mad though. You know what I mean? Ran out a little bit of storage, so I had to delete some stuff, but it came from the heart. But like when you giving value, it don't matter how many times I gotta give it as long as it gets out. You know what I mean? So but what I was saying was today was one of those days when I really didn't feel like, going to the gym. You know what I mean? I was exhausted, was running around all day. And I was thinking to myself, like, you know what, today can be an off day for me from the gym. I go to the gym consistently. My body is good. Obviously I got ways to improve, but it's good enough so I can like at least skip a day. But start thinking like, nah, I can't skip a day because if I fast forward and wake up in the morning and I'm alive, I'm like, damn, was I really that tired to skip the gym? Especially when there's people who can't go to the gym or people who want to go to the gym and just don't have access to. That's just how my mind works. I put myself in like situations like that so I can just put things into perspective. You know what I mean? How much of a privilege it is for me to do certain things that I might take for granted because it's so easily accessible to me. You know what I mean? So I was like, you know what? I don't really want to go to the gym, but I'm going to go to the gym. And that brings me to the first of two parts to this video that kind of goes into the same thing. But the first one is basically just doing something and how doing something and your feelings interchange. A lot of people don't really do the things that they say they want to do if they don't feel like doing it. And that's most of the reason why most people don't live their dream lives or don't have the things they want, not because they don't want it. Some even try to do it, but it's enduring it and staying consistent, especially when you're not seeing any fruits from your labor that you're putting in. Most people quit because after you're not seeing any fruits from your labor, the feeling dies down and you let that feeling be a false indicator to stop or it's not worth it. And then you get what you think you believe. But I went to the gym and I know that you can either feel like doing something to then make it easier to do it, or you can just force yourself to do it and then the feeling kind of builds on as you're doing it. So for an example, you can watch a motivational video, get hyped up, you know what I mean, swallow the pre-workout, whatever you take, and by the time you get to the gym, you already was kind of there mentally to where it's like a smooth transition. Or like how I was tonight, you can like not feel like going to the gym, but as you get in the routine and you start feeling the blood pump throughout your muscles and you start seeing your progress in real time, that feeling kind of adds on into the workout and you basically what you was missing or what you was looking for kind of develops. Just as you forcing yourself to do the thing rather than you looking for the feeling as an indicator for you to do the thing. So just understand that you don't always got to feel good to do something. And feelings, though sometimes can be valid because intuition is a real thing, can also be a false indicator because the feelings are basically just there to kind of keep you comfortable. You know what I mean? It wants to protect you and keep you safe. But as we all know, if you really want to grow and if you want things that's not easily obtained, some things that most people don't have in the world, or if you want to get to a spot in your life that you've never been before, you got to do things you've never done. And when you're doing things you've never done and when you're trying to grow, that requires you to be uncomfortable. So sometimes your feelings and your mind wants you to be comfortable, but you have to override that and do the thing it is, and you become comfortable over time. Like riding a bike, you know what I mean? Riding a bike was uncomfortable for everybody at first, but then now it's second nature for a lot of us. So that was the first part of the video. Don't always listen to your feelings. If you don't always feel like doing something, even though it might be better to feel like doing something, sometimes just forcing yourself into the thing builds that feeling on later on. The second part of the video kind of goes hand in hand is kind of the three phases to like your path or your journey or like whatever the case, however you want to call it. This is just my opinion also. And the first kind of like correlates with feeling is motivation. The first part of every journey I feel like is motivation because you're either inspired or motivated by somebody you've seen done it or somebody that you see living or have something that you want, which kind of kickstarts you to start your journey in whatever you want, your body, business, money, whatever the case may be. But motivation, just like your feelings, can lead you astray because you can't rely on it too much. Motivation is kind of like the battery of a car. It seems like one of the most important. It is important, obviously, but it seems like one of the most important things you need to actually drive your car. Just like how motivation is kind of like equivalent to like you having the feeling to do something. It's like, why would I want to do something when I don't feel like doing it? I'm not going to give it my all. You know what I mean? But that can be a false indicator. So just like how if you my car people out there, if you have a car, the battery is important, but the battery is just there to just kickstart the car on, turn the car on initially. After the car is on, you can actually drive your car without the battery. You know what I mean? For some time. I've learned that just me going through all the fucking car issues I had in the past. You start to learn stuff. But that's how motivation is. It kickstarts you in your journey. It kickstarts you in your day, or kickstarts you to start that task. But it slowly fades. You know what I mean? And you're not really. It's not really useful, and you're not going to need it to utilize you in the long duration of the journey. It's good in the beginning, just like how turning the battery on is good to start the car in the beginning, but after a while, it's basically useless because it's going to run out. Our body gets used to things. That's why things get so old. That's why the people say out with the old, in with the new. You know what I mean? That's why a lot of people are just not grateful, because when you get jaded seeing the same things and getting accustomed to the same things on a regular basis, and that's how motivation is. When you watch the same videos all the time, or you've been in the same journey and you're not seeing any progress, that motivation starts to fade. But then that's when number two comes into play: discipline. Discipline, from our car people again. Discipline, if motivation is the battery, discipline is the alternator. So once you start the car from the battery, the alternator is the main part that runs the electrical circuits throughout the car to keep the car running and going. So you can actually take the battery out the car and have the alternator drive the car for some time. You know what I mean? That's how strong the alternator is. But the alternator in this equation, as far as life, is discipline. Motivation starts you and it gets you into the race, but discipline is going to keep you in the race. Because discipline is when you're just doing the things regardless of how you feel, which feeling would be correlated with the motivation in this journey, or in this phase. So you got to have discipline. After the motivation runs out, you have to have discipline. You have to do the things, do the right tasks, whether you feel like it or not. Understanding where it's going to take you in the long run. You know what I mean? You might not see any progress. You might not see any rewards from all the work you've been putting in the past. But you got to have discipline. You got to understand that if I continue to do this thing, something is going to hit. I know it. And then the third part is purpose. So the majority of the world has discipline. There's a lot of people who go to the same job each and every day to pay bills for their kids, but they hate it. They don't like it at all. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's kind of living an unfulfilling life. And that's how people feel like they're going through the motions and they feel like robots. It's because you're doing the same task every day. And not only are you doing the same thing every day, you're doing something that doesn't bring you fulfillment, or you're just not finding the fulfillment in that thing that you're doing. So the third part of the equation that I feel like will keep you in the race long enough for you to get whatever you desire is, you gotta have purpose. And like I said, discipline, it's people who have discipline to go to work every day that they hate. But purpose, and finding purpose in your work, or finding a purpose to work, is what's going to keep you in the race and make it enjoyable, to where you're not looking for the outcomes. You're literally in it for the journey. Purpose makes you in it for the journey. And I've learned that. Like, my purpose in my journey is my family, my mom, my sister, even the kids I haven't had yet. I want them to come into the world not with the same tribulations that I had. I want them to have a fair start into the world, and they can make the decisions as they get older. But that's what gives me motivation. So when I'm not seeing any rewards from my systems that I'm running, whether it's my business, whether it's my body, whatever the case may be, I'm not upset, because I understand, one, I'm doing all the right things, whether I'm seeing movement or not. But two, I have purpose to keep me in it. You know what I mean? All of it is going to be worth it. And that's what makes work fulfilling. Like, I don't even feel like I work. I feel like I live my dream before the dream. Like, my dream life, obviously traveling, cars, and all that stuff. But I'm very grateful for what I have right now. This is more than enough. I have more than enough. Everything else is going to feel like bonus. You know what I mean? I don't need the most million. I keep running out of stories, so I'm gonna wrap this up. Like I said, I'm grateful where I am. You know what I mean? Because I have a purpose to keep me in and endure all the trials and tribulations that I go through until I get the real life that I want. But you know what I mean? Motivation is cool, but don't rely on it, because it fades away. You know what I mean? Discipline is very great to have. You need to put discipline all the time. But purpose is what's going to have you fulfilled and, you know what I mean, keep you in when the times is the toughest and the roughest.